Jackson Radio Show.
What bothers me about this president is not so much what he says, although he is so offensive. I mean, just a few weeks ago, he attacked the United States Senator with sexual innuendo. He talks about prison for his former opponent in a presidential election. This is not what presidents of the United States do. But I am more worried about what this president's policies are in terms of telling the working people of this country during his campaign that he was going to stand with them, and yet he governs now as a representative of the billionaire class. Tax breaks for the wealthy, cutting people off of health insurance, ignoring the needs of children, not dealing with the prescription drug crisis in this country that he said he was going to deal with. I worry about him being a pathological liar. Those are some of the concerns that I have.
Oh, boy. Welcome back, everybody. Kevin Jackson. Bernie Sanders is a moron. Seriously. There are many people that are like, support the guy. And I get it. During the time he was running against Hillary, maybe he was making sense to all these kids or whatever. But to support Bernie Sanders, I'm just going to put it out there. You have to be a full-blown idiot. He knows nothing. How this guy is in politics and manages to stay there is a real testament to the fact that there are people out there that are so ignorant and buy into this idea that somebody's keeping them down. And Bernie sells it as good as anybody. The rich are trying to get richer. The fat cats, they're after you. They're doing all these things to you. Whatever, Bernie. Man, I'm so sick of it. As a young black kid growing up, I would have punched Bernie Sanders in the face. Seriously. How in the heck in this country can you go around selling the concept that everybody's just out to get you? There's so many things out there for you. You can get educated. If you want to get that rotten education that they called community college or whatever, go get it. It'll help you. I'm not saying that college doesn't help people formulate ideas, but for the most part, it's a waste of time. I mean, it's okay, great. Let's go get that paper. I got mine. And then you just go, okay, I got my paperwork. But where you really learn is by getting out there and rolling up your sleeves and finding out what it is you want to do. And the way you do that is you do a multitude of things, or you try out a lot of different ideas. The majority of people in this country who are stuck in their jobs are stuck there because they read a report that said there's going to be a need for lots of accountants in the year 2014. And so they go, I'll be an accountant because there's going to be a need for them. They don't care. It wasn't a passion. I mean, I find it odd that people have a passion for accounting, but they do. They do. And so I'll tell you this. I got into engineering for two reasons. One, my brother was a tech, my oldest brother, and he would come home and he would solder things onto a board. And I was like, what's that? And he had the schematic and he'd be reading it and I'd look at it and he'd go, and then he explained, this is a resistor, a capacitor, an inductor. Here's my circuit, whatever. And so hey, can I do it? And I'd solder it and he'd go, that's a cold solder joint. And then so every summer when he came home, we built stuff and I gained an appreciation for it. I wouldn't call it a love, but I gained an appreciation. And I liked watching things come to life. And when we finished building whatever, then the radio worked or the little, gadget worked. That's what gave me a love, this affinity towards it. And the fact that I was hanging out with my older brother who was cool, right? And so I went ahead and got an engineering degree. So he was a tech. And so when I learned about being a tech versus an engineer, I said, I want to be an engineer. I don't want to be a tech because the tech had to work for the engineer. But I did tech work when I went to, I was a co-op at Texas Instruments. So I did tech work and I learned a lot more. And I found out I really do like the design aspect of it. But I became an engineer and I did like it. But I'll tell you this right now, I did not love it. I didn't love it. My brother got me. It made me think. It taught me logic because circuit, and how electricity moves around is very logical. It fed into all the things that my mind had. But I'll tell you, my creative side suffered because I liked the creative. If I hadn't done that with my brother, it would not surprise me at all if I would have gone to Hollywood and been on the casting couch and been out there trying to make a living, trying to avoid Harvey Weinstein. No, Kevin Spacey. But it's true. It's so true. Because I never had that influence in the country. You wake up early in the morning, you go to bed, when the lights go down, night comes and the chores are done. And it's a pretty simple life. And so it wasn't somebody out there going, hey, let's do some old show tunes, Kev. So I had TV as my distraction. I'm cracking myself up now. But I had TV as my distraction. So I used to do all the voices. James G. Robinson. Yeah. You see, where's your God now, Moses? Jimmy Stewart and some people like that. And I would do Carson. I did all the things Rich Little did. And I mimicked all these old white guys, which, by the way, not a big career for that with black dudes. But I entertained myself in ways that I think honestly was more my personality. But I went with engineering because my brother was, and he ended up getting his engineering degree. And ironically, after he gets all his degrees, he goes back to school and gets a PhD in theology. So he's doing nothing close to that. But his logical mind led him, to really research theology and get closer to God and so on and so forth. So my only point to it is that, you don't know what you want to do. And there are people out there struggling. They're not struggling because the government is oppressive. They're struggling because they didn't have somebody guiding them in the right way. Now, where does that occur? It occurs in the school system. Now, here's what school system does. It goes, hey, you have high aptitude for math and science, Kevin. Great. But it doesn't tell me you could be a good writer. You might be a playwright. You might be a poet. You could be a songwriter. There are other elements to it. You should figure these things out as well. It doesn't do that. There wasn't counselor that said, let me learn about you, man. Tell me about your upbringing. The closest I came to that was my counselor in high school, Mr. Sharp. And here's what he said to me. I won a scholarship called the Minnie Stevens Piper Scholarship, one of the biggest scholarships in the state of Texas. And so I had pretty much a free ride because Minnie Stevens Piper would pay for this. And they picked 25 valedictorians in the school and in the state. They looked at all the valedictorians in the state of Texas, and they picked 25 of us who were finalists, and they paid for wherever we wanted to go to school. So I was the person who was submitted and by Mr. Sharp, and he told me, I'm going to submit you for this. And he goes, now, Gross won it last year. Mike Gross won it last year. They've never given it 2 years in a row to the same school. So, sorry, you probably won't win it. But I wanted to let you know I submitted you because, you're a stellar student, blah, blah, blah. I appreciate it, Mr. Sharp. By the way, he goes, as a consolation prize, if you want to get in the General Motors Institute, I'll make some calls and we'll get you in the General Motors Institute because you have an affinity. Your grades for math and science are very high. And so, but we had a conversation. That's the only career conversation I ever had with a counselor was, I can get you in there. And I said, I don't know. I go, I got a lot of offers coming from a lot of different schools. And I think I just want to do engineering. I don't want to do automotive engineering. I want to do design engineering. And he goes, okay, well, you let me know. And that was it. But when you have an affinity to math and science, nobody goes, hey, listen, you might want to look at acting or singing or whatever. I'm an amazing singer. Can't you hear it? Can't you hear it in my voice? No, I'm not doing anything special with my voice right now. This is just my voice. It's like when somebody touches your stomach and you tense up. And they're like, whoa! Oh, man. So, but here's the thing. And I come back to this. And I'm sure many of you are listening to me now going, you know what, Kevin? You're so right. I didn't search and figure out what I wanted to do. I had one of my buddies. I worked for a guy, one of my supervisors in engineering was a guy named Walter Ford. And Walter was a really good engineer, analog and digital engineer, taught me tons. And his son was a master at body work on cars. And so Walter was like, yeah, my son, he's doing a car. And he goes, this kid can actually look at a car and know that it's slightly off. He goes, you can't calibrate better than him with a machine. Than when he looks at it, he'll look at it and go, no, it's off. And it looks perfect to me. And he'll redo it. And then you go, wow, it is better. And he goes, he's great at that. And I remember thinking, Walter's a degreed engineer, master's degree, my boss, and his son gets out of high school and does an auto body, is doing auto body work. And Walter's like, I'm happy for him. And I remember thinking, man, my grandmother would be, you ain't going to be doing no auto body work. You're going to college. You're going to do this. But it was happiness. And I don't know what the guy's doing, but I bet you he owns a big body shop. He's doing really well. He loves what he's doing. And he's not going to be a ward of the government for any reason. That's what I'm talking about. But Bernie Sanders wants to blame somebody.
Kevin Jackson
on the Black Sphere Radio Network.
Do you owe back taxes to the IRS or state? The secret to avoiding the IRS nightmare is to seek professional representation. My friends at Security Tax Associates provide the most cost-effective and ethical representation in the industry while helping to avoid seizures, levies, and wage garnishments. Security Tax Associates is here to ensure that the appropriate steps are taken to permanently eliminate any possibility of future tax burdens once and for all. For a free, no-obligation consultation, contact Security Tax Associates, 844-779-4177. That's 844-779-4177. 844-779-4177. Or visit them at securitytaxassociates.com.